Hello, my friends. Let's start right away with the Kursk direction. Here, the Ukrainian Armed Forces continue their attacks in the areas around the village of Nechaev. Reports also mention strikes on Russian troops using Gru-39 bombs. Essentially, the process of eliminating the encircled Russian forces has begun, along with cutting them off from the main Russian troops by destroying bridges. However, there have been no significant changes along the front line overnight. The Russians are shocked that their large army is unable to do anything. The command has managed things so poorly that the Ukrainian Armed Forces have made such a powerful breakthrough. It's clear that the Ukrainian Armed Forces' success has already instilled fear in the Russians. Meanwhile, Russian war correspondents are stunned that Ukraine is already developing an education plan for children in the Kursk region. Ukraine will have to develop an education plan for children in the Kursk region, said Ukraine's Deputy Minister of Education. If the situation continues until the end of September, we will have to create an education plan for those territories for underage children, said Vinnytsky. The Ukrainians are totally out of control. Now I see. Overall, the so-called special military operation is clearly not going according to plan. In the Kharkiv direction, the Russians continue their assault on the settlement of Liptsi. At the same time, the battles near Vovchansk are ongoing, but the Russians haven't achieved any success here. Reports indicate that the Ukrainian forces are conducting counterattacks. The 3rd Assault Brigade is advancing in the Kharkiv region, reclaiming territories. On August 15th, as a result of counteroffensive actions, the brigade took control of a battalion defense area of the Russians, their platoon and company strongholds, and advanced nearly 2 square kilometers into the front line. The force ratio on the battlefield is 2.5 to 1 in favor of the Russians, plus additional Russian support forces. The main task of the operation was to neutralize the offensive potential of Russia's Second Army. As of now, this task has been accomplished. The brigade commander is Colonel Andriy Belitsky. In 4 days, the Russians lost 300 personnel, and a significant amount of equipment and weaponry was destroyed or damaged. The uniqueness of the operation was that we attacked a superior enemy force and won. Success depended on detailed planning, unconventional solutions, and the coordinated efforts of artillery, air defense, armored vehicles, and intelligence. But the heroes of the battlefield were the tank crews, sappers, scouts, and above all the assault troops. While this hasn't led to significant changes along the front line, it has prevented the Russians from advancing further. It's unfortunate that such operations aren't conducted in the hottest sectors, where they are indeed needed far more than in the Kharkiv direction, where Russian activity is minimal. Here, the Russians carried out 5 or 6 attacks per day, whereas in the Pokrovsk direction, there are already around 60 assaults daily. Now, let's move straight to the Pokrovsk direction. As I mentioned in the last video, the Russians have once again made new gains in the past day. Overall, the advance on several fronts has been over 4 kilometers. Today, battles are ongoing for Myrnohrad, Hryhorivka, Mykolaiivka, Novoserhiivka, and Mikhailivka. The front line is now on the brink of breaking through to the most critical settlements, Selidove and Myrnohrad. Moreover, the Russians can now shell Myrnohrad with artillery, and FPV drones have been spotted on the outskirts. Attempts to advance closer to the highway continue, but there have been no changes so far. The situation in the Toretsk direction remains challenging. Russians continue their attempts to break through to Toretsk itself. The Russians are also trying to capture Pivnichne and Pantelemonivka. However, despite their heightened activity, there have been no significant changes along the front line in this area. The Ukrainian forces are doing everything possible to prevent the Russians from advancing further. In the Chasiv Yar direction, the Russians continue their assaults on Hryhorivka, attempting to break through the canal daily and establish a foothold, but the Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling them, preventing any significant progress. Similarly, battles are ongoing near the village of Bila Hora, although the Ukrainian forces are preventing the Russians from securing their positions. The front line remains unchanged over the past 24 hours. In the Siversk direction, the situation has stabilized for now. Russians are focusing their assaults on the village of Spirne, with only one attack reported in the past day, which the Ukrainian forces successfully repelled. As a result, there have been no changes along the front line. In the Kreminna direction, battles are ongoing for the village of Torske, but the overall activity remains minimal and there have been no significant changes in the situation. In the Svatove area, Russian activity has increased significantly. They are assaulting Stelmakhivka and Andriivka, while also attempting to break through towards Novoserhiivka. Battles are ongoing near Novoserhiivka as well. To counter these advances, the Ukrainian forces have launched counterattacks aimed at stabilizing the situation. Further south, the Russians persist in their efforts to advance towards Hryhorivka and are assaulting the village of Makiyivka. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians are intensifying their shelling on Kupiansk-Vuzlovyi and launching assaults on Synkivka and Petropavlivka. However, the Russians have seen no success in this area for a long time, as the Ukrainian forces continue to hold the defense effectively. This is in stark contrast to the section on the front line near Kolesnikivka, where the Russians achieved significant gains a few days ago. However, no new attacks have been reported there as of today. In the Kurakhove direction, Russian forces are attempting to advance near Heorhiivka, the village of Pobieda, and Kostiantynivka. Despite their efforts, the Russians have seen no success in this area so far, although 16 assaults were recorded over the past day. In the Vuhledar direction, Russian forces launched 3 attacks near Vodiane and continue to shell Vuhledar. However, the Ukrainian forces have successfully repelled all attacks and the front line remains unchanged. In the Zaporizhia direction, Russian forces haven't launched any new attacks and the situation has stabilized as of today. In the Kherson direction, the Russians continue to intensify shelling of the right bank, but haven't carried out any new offensive actions. And there are new reports of the destruction of a ferry. Ukrainian forces have successfully destroyed the Conro-Trader ferry, which was the only large ferry operating between Kerch and Russia. Meanwhile, strikes on Russian territory continue and new photos have emerged following the latest attack on the Marinovka airbase. Honestly, I'm pleasantly surprised by the results of the attack. Judging by the crater near the Anhar marked in red, it wasn't just a drone that hit. Also, there is a destroyed Su-34 in the Anhar. The number of damaged aircraft is unknown. The strike also impacted the munitions storage, aviation hangars, and airport infrastructure. And President Zelensky stated that we must create as many problems as possible for Russian territory.
Ми всі маємо розуміти, щоб вигнати окупанта з нашої землі, ми повинні створювати російській державі якнайбільше проблем на її території. І це героїчна робота наших воїнів.
We wait for the developments on this front. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.